In today's video, we continue on with our season previews through the teams in the Pacific Division. Today, we look at the Edmonton Oilers. They had a remarkable playoff run last year and finally broke through. Can they build on that and be cup contenders? We'll discuss that coming up next. So welcome back to another video here at Top Shelf Hockey. As I mentioned, today we're going to preview the upcoming 22-23 season for the Edmonton Oilers. Now, of course, you're new to this series. We're going to do a quick recap of the 21-22 season, take a look at some key team statistics, take a look at how they did in the playoffs. Then we're going to examine how the team has changed over the course of the offseason, key additions, key subtractions, any prospects that can jump up and have an impact on this roster throughout the season. And then we'll examine their projected lineup and discuss how we feel the season is going to go. So let's first recap the 21-22 season here for the Edmonton Oilers. Of course, they were in second place in the Pacific Division with a record of 49-27-6 for 104 points. They scored 290 goals, 7th best in the NHL. I don't think it's any doubt that the Oilers will once again be a very offensive team. They have been for some time. Goals against was average 252 against for 16th best. The power play was phenomenal at 26% for third in the league. And the penalty kill was slightly below average. Could use a little bit of improvement, 79.4% for 17th best. Of course, we know that the Oilers were indeed a playoff team last year. They lost in the Western Conference Final. They kind of had a rocky start in round 2 against the Calgary Flames, but ultimately won that Battle of Alberta, the first Battle of Alberta playoff series we've had in a really long time. It started off really strong for Calgary, then it shifted, and once the Oilers took over, they just ran with it the rest of the way. But then they ran into a freight train called the Colorado Avalanche and didn't make a lot of headway there in the Western Conference Final, ultimately losing to the Stanley Cup champions. Of course, they've made the playoffs the past couple of years. Before that, of course, I know a few years back, they did have a playoff appearance where they lost in the second round. And, of course, they had a couple of years in between where they didn't qualify. So, certainly, I expect the playoff push to continue for the Oilers, and I want to see how far they can take it here. Of course, they had a coaching change last year, which played a big role as well. They ended up dismissing Dave Tippett. Jay Woodcroft took over. Woodcroft himself, after taking over the team, had a record of 26-9-3, which is pretty remarkable. So he will be in his first full NHL season behind the bench of the Oilers. So it'll be interesting to see if they can build off of all that progress that they made at the regular season, as well as the playoff success, and see what they can do. Now, of course, GM Ken Holland's still there, been hired now for 3.5 seasons. So will be very interesting to see where things go. Now, this team did have some changes throughout the offseason. Obviously, they had a fair bit of players depart, most of which were either retired or free agents leaving. We didn't really see much in the way of trades, but obviously some key players coming in as well. So let's first take a look at the key players joining the club. So key additions, the biggest one being free agent signing Jack Campbell, who comes over from the Toronto Maple Leafs. We know that the Leafs seem to supply a lot of players to the Oilers here in recent years. Of course, Zach Hyman's there. You get Tyson Barrie, you get Cody Ceci, a lot of former Leafs on this Oilers roster. Campbell comes in on a 5-year, $5 million per year season contract to hopefully solidify the goaltending position. Of course, they've had Smith and Koskinen in the past few years, and it's been okay, but the problem is Mike Smith always seemed to get hurt. You know, he's an older guy, still was a very serviceable goaltender, but it just, I think largely due to his age, just always seemed to have these injuries pop up. And Mikko Koskinen was okay at times, but he just could not be good for an extended time. The bigger the workload got for Koskinen, the more problematic it became. So Koskinen's not even in the league now. He's back to Europe. Smith's on LTIR to finish the final year of his contract. Of course, we'll talk about them a little further in the subtraction. So Campbell comes in to solidify the goaltending position. Otherwise, they picked up Ryan Murray and Matthias Janmark, also unrestricted free agents. Some short-term contracts there to solidify the defensive depth. I'm not sure where Murray's going to fit exactly. He may be the number 6, number 7 guy. He's kind of fighting for that in training camp right now. And Janmark, he's probably going to be a 4th liner, or might even be in tough as well, because there's a lot of competition going on for those last couple of forward spots. Now, looking at the subtractions, of course, like I said, we had some players depart. Some older guys, especially Duncan Keith, announces his retirement. So, of course, he leaves. Zach Kassian ends up getting dealt as a cost-cutting trade. So he's no longer there. Chris Russell departs as a free agent. Kyle Turris' contract was up, and he also retired. Derek Brassard, not renewed. Mike Smith's not coming back. Josh Archibald leaves as well as a free agent. And Koskinen, as we said, also an expiring deal. And he's out of the league and gone to Europe. So most of these players that left the Oilers are not even on other NHL franchises. Brassard and Archibald, really the only ones right now to fall into that category. Chris Russell, I don't believe ended up getting any opportunities. So, so not a drastic amount of change. The main thing is in between the pipes. Otherwise, just a little bit of tinkering around the bottom, forward and defensive depth spots. So, largely the same group coming back this season. Now, are there some prospects who could have an impact this year? And there absolutely are. I think Dylan Holloway likely projects to be the young player that gets the most opportunity, the former first rounder. I suspect will have a good shot to make the roster. And if he's not, I think he'll still be a real solid option for them as a call-up. So we'll see where things go. But Holloway, to me, has a good opportunity. Same with Philip Broberg. I think Broberg has an excellent chance to be somewhat of a regular on the blue line this year in the top 6. Ryan Murray, of course, will be in competition with a player like him as well to see where things go. Murray often has injured himself. That's the story of his career. Decent defenseman, but never seems to be able to stay healthy. So obviously, Broberg will have a good chance this year to have more of an impact. And of course, Tyler Benson's been a fringe NHLer for a few years now, trying to get more opportunity and just has never been able to kind of stick and play just well enough to grab a regular spot. But a lot of that's because of the players playing in front of him as well. So we'll see. But I do expect more opportunity likely coming this year. Now, of course, some of these players, too, as the roster cuts are made, could end up on waivers. And that could also change where things sit. Now, let's take a look at the projected lineup for the Edmonton Oilers. Now, right now, of course, your top line should be Connor McDavid and Evander Kane, likely playing with Kyler Yamamoto. I suspect him and Hyman in this lineup, to me, is somewhat interchangeable. But we've seen Hyman, I think, play more so with Draisaitl. So I think we're probably going to see a case of Yamamoto on the first line. And probably Draisaitl, Hyman, and Ryan Nugent-Hopkins likely being on your second line. They have some options here, though. Ryan Nugent-Hopkins can also center the third line, too. Depends on how they want to do this. If they feel like another winger is playing well enough to deserve that second line spot on the right or left wing, they could move things around, or they could split Hyman over to the left wing, move a right winger up, like if Puljujarvi's doing really well or something like that. They can move this around. This lineup is what I'm expecting, but at the same time, it's not necessarily locked in because they do have flexibility here. Ryan McLeod's going to be your number 3 center, unless, of course, Nugent-Hopkins is there. Then, of course, you can move McLeod to the wing or down to the fourth line. Warren Foegele and Jesse Puljujarvi are likely going to get those winger spots to start. And then your fourth line very well could be some combination of Ryan, Shore, and Janmark, but we could also see players like Holloway or Benson in there as well. That's largely due to salary cap constraints. The team is tight up against it. We might see a cost-cutting trade out of the Oilers before the season starts. That's a possibility. And if not, we might see a veteran or two end up on waivers and have the younger guys on the rookie contracts coming in just to give them a little bit of that cap relief, because that's regardless of what the coaching staff or the management feels is the best lineup, they're going to have to go with the best lineup that they can afford to put on the ice with their cap situation. So that might impact things as well. So we'll see. I wouldn't be shocked if we see a Janmark or a Ryan or somebody like that possibly have to go through waivers and get demoted to at least start the year, unless a cost-cutting trade is in effect as well. I mean, of course, as far as players that are maybe trying to work their way in, as we mentioned as well, for additions, as you've seen on that slide a few moments ago. They also have a couple players on PTOs. They're not a given right now, and by the time this video makes it to YouTube, those decisions might even be made, because there's going to be a couple days in between, so forgive me if this news has already been updated. But Jason Demers is fighting for a spot on the blue line, and same with Jake Virtanen trying to grab a forward spot. To be completely honest, I am not overly confident that either player really makes the Oilers better, and that we're going to see a contract for either, but you never know. Things can change here in a heartbeat. On the blue line, you're going to see a combination likely of Nurse and Ceci, Kulak and Bouchard, and Broberg and Barry. But like I said, you got guys like Ryan Murray in the mix there as well. So we'll see. Like I said, and Jason Demers, maybe Demers gets a deal, but at the same time, I don't know that I really want to, box out Broberg. So I don't know. They already have Murray under contract. I'm not really sure if Demers is really going to get an opportunity, but we'll see. And of course, Jack Campbell between the pipes, backed up by Stuart Skinner. So at the same time, like I said, you have largely the same group with a little bit of stuff on the fourth line or the third pair on the blue line looking a little bit different. I have no doubt they'll be one of the top couple teams in the Pacific. They have all the potential there to carry on from last year. I think the Pacific Division, as well as what's in the Central. To me, the East is way deeper and stronger than the West right now. I think the Oilers can once again, like I said, not only be a top team, but they can be one of the top contenders. To me, there's about 3 to 4 teams that I can see winning the West or being the final 2 in the West, and Edmonton's one of them. I think Edmonton, Calgary, to me, are the main 2 teams in the Pacific Division who could really have a legit shot at winning the division and just really being a force in the playoffs. And of course, like in the Central, to me, the Avalanche, again, are going to be a juggernaut. Will have to be a handful for any team to go through. Can the Oilers beat them? That's going to be the tough question. We saw for a few years the Avalanche couldn't get past Vegas. They had a hard time, and then they finally overcame things, got met, and once they moved past it, they went on to win the Cup. The Avalanche might be that same team to the Oilers as the 2 powerhouses, but then again, like I said, the Flames are going to have something to say about that as well, still being very much in the mix, but we'll see. I mean, if the Oilers and Flames were to meet in the playoffs again, well, if we were that fortunate to get another Battle of Alberta playoff series, would we get the same outcome? It's difficult to say. To be honest, Jacob Markstrom did not play well in last year's playoff series, but if he outdueled Jack Campbell, you just never know. The Flames will be a good competition for the Oilers again this year. But I do expect good things from the Oilers. Definitely see them being a playoff team. Definitely see them being potential to go deep in the playoffs. I don't know that they can get over that hump and go to the finals. But at some point, that's going to be the big challenge for them this year. And I wonder if they can, free up a little bit of cap space so that they can be in a better position at the deadline to maybe add another piece. That might make all the difference in the world as well. Same thing on their blue line. I do have some concerns. If I had to point out a weakness, I would say that might be it. Just given the fact that they do have some younger players. Like there's lots of, I think, good skating and offense from the back end. I just don't know that there's enough solid, defensive style defensemen there to kind of shut things down. But we'll have to see if they can prove us wrong there. And Jack Campbell, great goaltender, had a good run in Toronto. He's going to be in a similar type of team with Edmonton, like a very much, offense first, very offensive minded. Can he, do even better than he did in Toronto? At the same time, he had some good regular seasons, but he was very hot and cold. Campbell seems to be very streaky. Like he's always used to start the season real strong. Then he always had a big middle part that was just not good. And then sometimes he'd be better going into the playoffs and gave his team a chance to win. So they need him to be more consistent, though, I think, than he was in Toronto. A great goalie, good story, late bloomer. I don't have too much issue with the contract as long as he can remain consistent. I think he just needs to take his game up another level if he's really going to earn that contract, and see if they can give him like a solid, steady 9-10 to 9-15 save percentage. Then will be a good, a good solid benchmark for the Oilers to be able to have a good chance to win any given night. So let me know your thoughts on the Oilers' upcoming season down in the comments, and we'll discuss further. If you're new to the channel, of course, make sure you subscribe and stick around. We'll keep you up to date with all the latest news, rumors, and analysis on all 32 NHL teams. And stay tuned, we still got more teams coming in this season preview series. Thank you for watching, and I'll catch you next time.